It's the start of a new season of iRacing, and there's been a heap of new updates. There's new cars, new tracks, and even a mistake, an accidental update that turned out to be incredible. Let's go through the update and go through all the shiny, fancy new stuff. So a bunch of new stuff is available on iRacing. We're going to be going through the smaller changes and then going through the bigger changes and the change that actually wasn't meant to happen but did. The first change is the braking sound. So iRacing now has dynamic audio for the brakes. This means that cold brakes will squeal a bunch but will quiet down as they come up to temperature. It's a really cool change. It sounds cool, but I guarantee you it'll hurt your ears after a while. We'll see how it goes over the course of the season. Next up is the Toyota GR86, and it has the new damage model. It's a small change, but it is cool. You can now take wheels off the car, so be careful in your rookie and D-class racing in this car. The next new feature is auto fuel. iRacing has been calculating how much fuel is remaining in your tank, how many laps for a while now, but now it will calculate how much you'll need to refuel in a pit stop to actually get home based on that current burn. It takes a few laps of driving to calculate your fuel burn, and you can set a bit of extra margin as well, whether it's like a lap or half a lap or something like that. And then iRacing will set up auto fuel and it'll automatically refuel what it thinks will get you home. Is this feature good? I don't know yet, to be honest. Sometimes the inbuilt iRacing fuel calculator is a little off depending on how you drive. Sometimes it's perfect, sometimes it's off. If it messes up, things can go bad really quickly and you can run out of fuel. So what I would recommend is trying this in practice first, making sure it works. Then you can use it in a race instead of using other fuel calculator programs. The next change is in the GT3 class, and the GT3 class has had an ABS update. So the ABS in these cars should work a little bit more closer to how they supposedly work in real life. For a while now in iRacing, with this update, the ABS is way more effective and you can brake closer to 100%. And potentially even 100%. I haven't done enough testing on it yet, but it seems like you can just slam the pedal down, similar to ACC or even Gran Turismo 7. So I think this is a good change. It'll make the GT3s a little bit easier to drive, and I think a lot of people have been asking for this for a long time. I have done a bit of driving in the GT3s, but yeah, obviously not a lot of driving. So if you have, if you like it, please let us know in the comments. If you hate it, let us know as well. Otherwise, if you like the video, definitely shoot us a like and subscribe for more cool videos from Overtake. So after those changes, there are 3 or 4 new cars that are coming to iRacing in this build. So the first car is the late model stock. This car is used in the Cars late model stock tour, which as far as I can tell is based on the movie Cars with Lightning McQueen, and this replaces the old late model in iRacing, which was a Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS. It's a bit of a short track weapon, this car, and it's probably the most common car that you see at short track oval racing in the US. I'm really no expert when it comes to this kind of racing, but this car is really fun and it sounds incredible. I think it's potentially the best sounding car in iRacing now. It's just got an amazing engine sound. It turns left really well, and if you're into that sort of thing, this car will be really good for you. The next new car in iRacing is the Renault Clio. So it's raced in the Clio Cup across Europe, and it's a really cool one-make series with lots of really close racing. Probably the most famous driver to race in it was George Russell, who raced there in Imola in 2021. It's a really fun car. It's a front-wheel drive car. It turns really well, and it'll create pack racing. I think it'll be really fun. The next new car is the Ray Race Cars Formula Ford 1600. And this one's a tube frame purpose-built race car with a Kent engine in it. The Kent engine makes about 110 horsepower, and Formula Ford has historically been the #1 place out of karts for young drivers to learn how to go car racing. And while it's fallen out of favor in recent years to series like Formula 4, it's still raced in many places across the world, like the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. And while it looks like a Formula V or a Skip Barber, this car drives quite differently in a lot of ways. There's very little longitudinal squat I've noticed while driving this car compared to a V or a Skippy. So it tends to be really kind of static and doesn't kind of dive as much under brakes. This car does drive like a V similarly in a couple of ways though. When you apply the throttle, the thing tends to really grip up in the rear. And when you're on the brakes and you're going into a corner, it tends to be really, really loose and really hard to control. It's a lot of fun, and the lack of aero makes it really, really interesting to drive and to race as well. I highly recommend racing it against other people. There's a new track this build, and it's in Spain. It's not called Jerez, as I used to call it as a kid. It is called Jerez. Most commonly these days, it's raced in MotoGP in the motorbikes. This track really does seem to suit MotoGP, I think. A lot of the curbs are very flat and the corners tend to be quite long corners as well. The track is quite thin and twisty, and honestly, I think it's going to be a really hard track to race on. I think it'll be hard to get a run on people and to fight. I think it'll be quite easy to defend, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm actually going to give it a quick lap now in the Formula Ford 1600 to see how it goes, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the final accidental change to happen in this build. Okay, so we're starting a lap at Jerez under the big spaceship to start the lap, which is kind of cool. Turn one's this kind of uphill right-hander. And as you can see, the curbs are really, really flat, so it's very like set up for MotoGP, this track. Next we have a hairpin. And from here in the Formula Ford 1600, which is what I'm driving, it's actually almost completely flat till the back straight. We have this long right-hand corner which goes uphill, and it's a bit sketch on the way in, so you gotta hold on to it on the downshift and then wait for it. Yeah, nice. This is really the only straight on the track that goes for long enough to pass, in my opinion. So if you're gonna pass, this is where you'll do it. Jacques Villeneuve, obviously, you know, ended up winning because of this corner, so good for him. This next corner here is deceptive. The car wants to jump away on the way in. Yeah, I've kind of butchered that, haven't I? This track is really fun. It's got a really nice flow to it. And I think, like, honestly, I can see GT3s racing here, but I think it's going to be really hard to pass. It's quite thin. I think it's going to be really easy to defend. This is my favorite part of the track. You can kind of jump the car over these curves. And we head towards the final corner, which is a hairpin. Cool. That's a lap of Jerez. It's a pretty fun track, and I hope you enjoy racing it this season in iRacing. The final change in this season's iRacing build is a completely accidental one. When iRacing released the build, they released the ARCA Chevrolet Impala, exactly how it normally is. But instead of giving it 600 or so horsepower, they accidentally gave it like 750 horsepower. What this did was take the pretty slow Class D stock car into a 2000s era Winston Cup car, and it's super fast. This change was entirely accidental, but the oval community on iRacing really loved it. People were rejoicing, dancing in the streets, crying on Twitter. It was absolutely lovely. iRacing saw this change and decided, you know what, let's keep it and give it its own series. So they did, and the ARCA car with 750 brake horsepower is now going to be raced in the Gen 4 series on iRacing. If you've ever wanted to roleplay as a 2000s NASCAR, this is your place to do it. That's all the changes in this build. Were there any particular ones that you were like, this is really cool, or I'm not too excited about that? Feel free to let us know in the comments. If you did like the video, definitely give us a like, and remember to subscribe to Overtake for more sim racing videos. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.